All right. Well, everyone, happy Batman Day. And here on Star Night Research, and with me here is Matt Wacker, one of the most famous Batman cosplayers and actors. I want to thank you for joining me here today.
Hey, no problem. Happy Batman Day. It's a great day to be a Batman fan. Every day actually is a great day to be a Batman fan, but today especially a day all to himself. What a day it is.
Oh yeah, and no better month than September, I'd say. Just not too far from Halloween.
That's right. It's a shame it couldn't be in October, but you know, we don't make those calls.
Yeah. I always felt like after all this time, Batman should get like some kind of festival or something really special.
Well, and he is getting his own star on the Walk of Fame, so I don't think he should be asking for too much at this point. Let's not get greedy now.
Yeah, I know. It's just because like how there's the Metropolis Festival for Superman, so
Right,
but
right.
unfortunately, there's no exactly small town or city named Gotham.
Do we know that for sure? I mean, maybe there's like a Gotham, Ohio somewhere. Maybe there is some small town of like 2,000 people that could really help and really help with the local economy, give them a boost to have a giant Batman statue right in the middle of their town square.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the only would be nice, but I mean, there is one in California, I think, right?
Maybe I don't know.
Because I could
I
have
haven't.
sworn, didn't you pose in front of a Batman statue in costume?
Yeah, but that was in Burbank. That was they had that right out front the local AMC theater, and that was dedicated in like 2020, I believe, right during the height of the pandemic. So nobody really got to be there to initiate it or do any kind of inauguration. It was one of those things that, hey, one day it just happened and it was crickets. And then after the pandemic kind of ended, I think people started to go out there. And like myself, when I moved out there, I just put my entire suit on and tried to ape the pose of the statue itself, obviously based on the art of Jim Lee, some of the more iconic Batman artwork.
Yeah, because I say you have worn several other suits, right? Besides the Jim Lee one.
Yeah, I mean, I started all of this like I don't know 5 6 years ago, and I had kind of like a makeshift Arkham suit. I had like a rubberized chest piece, and I don't know. It just that was my entry point into all of this. And then as I began to do my own research on what I wanted to do, like the various kinds of suits I wanted to wear, part of that research was finding ways to at least make it more comfortable because, as I'm sure you and other Batman cosplayers know, it is not at all a comfortable suit to wear. I don't think there is any iteration of it that is worth. I mean, I guess it's worth it to some people to go to a con 5 6 hours dressed as Batman, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's pretty brutal, and you usually exit the suit soaking wet. You're kind of stewing in your own juices with all the sweat, and that's regardless of what the actual weather elements are like. If it's hot, if it's cold, you're still like pretty constricted. It's like wearing a giant sleeping bag. But to get back to your point, like I started with Arkham many years ago, and then I also did kind of a Nightfall. It was kind of an amalgamation of the 70s, 80s, the Neil Adams, Norm Brayfogle look, but then also doing kind of that 90s Nightfall. It was, all in essence kind of the same look with the long ears, the blue. It's just kind of doing it in my own way, my own flair. That's what I've always told people. And doing anything cosplay, if you're not striving for complete screen accuracy, it's just having fun with it, doing your own research, finding what works for your body type, and then just owning it. Really,
I agree because because to be honest, I don't mind a little bit of mix ups here and there. Besides just like the accurate.
yeah, yeah. I mean, accuracy. I don't know. There's different. There are varying schools of thought on accuracy. when I look at a character like Batman, if you're going to do like the Michael Keaton or any of the on-camera iterations of Batman, those are ones that okay, like your basis is already reality because these are suits that were made to be worn in live action. And so if you're striving for screen accuracy, that makes sense to me. But for me, my Batman rests in the pages of comic books. That's always going to be my favorite Batman. And a lot of those are interpretive. It's the artist's eye that put the Batman, put the character on the page. And so I like to take a little bit of liberty there. I don't think that you're going to be able to find true, accurate, real life representations of, say, a utility belt or a cowl. Like I think there's going to be varying textures, varying materials, and varying designs. There's a lot of like little minutia that can be manipulated. So I've always thought it to be a great honor that people think and continue to think that my Batman Hush is one of the closer real life interpretations of what's in the comics. And I always appreciate the comments of, oh, it's like he's being plucked straight from the book, and like that was always my goal, honestly, when I started doing those versions of Batman was do it my own way, my own style, but also uh, don't venture too far off from what people's eyes have been trained on. With you know the Hush version of Batman has been in pop culture now 25 years, 20 years.
Yeah, about there.
Yeah, people know what that version of Batman looks like. So
Yeah, as Jim Lee says, he's like one of the most popular artists for Batman. Like he has
oh,
such unique detail with where it's somewhat realistic, and I think he's like the first one of the first few designers to go with the very like short ears.
right, yeah, especially at that time, that was I think that was kind of his creative autonomy really at that point in time because so much of what we had seen in comics had been the more longer eared version of Batman. But I think just an overall design, the way artistically that he drew Batman with the proportions that he gave him, it wasn't. I don't think it was shocking to anybody at that time. I think by and large everybody really approved. I certainly did, and to me, that's his illustration, his drawing of Batman is certainly the very top of my list.
Yeah, I agree, and plus I like the fact that with his design for the symbol is pretty much a precursor to the Arkham symbol.
Oh yeah, totally. And again, like that's I remember at the time when I saw Jim Lee's the bat for Hush, it wasn't I wasn't blown away by it. I think at that point that was one thing I was very much accustomed to seeing the yellow oval, and that's certainly he wasn't the first one to do that, where it was straight black on gray. But um, he kind of again reintroduced that back into the public conscience of comic book nerds of kind of streamlining maybe in a way Batman's look and going away from those the vibrant yellow, having that vibrant yellow in the costume, and also the blue, kind of dulling the blue from a brighter blue to a navy, making him like a true creature of the shadows again. Which again, just more like subtle ways of kind of uh, reinventing the character at that time.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. Because when I look at it, I feel like it's like a mixture of both of the Batman animated series designs. Like when during the first run of the series, and then through the TMBA, it's like a bit of a mixture, but not like Justice League, where with the
Right,
shortened ears and like maybe with just like someone with like a dark blue cape.
right, right. Hmm.
So were you always a Batman fan, like as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, my earliest memories came from having comic books read to me when I was 2, 3 years old, and then the global phenomenon that was Tim Burton's Batman movie with Michael Keaton. That was, I think, my first cinematic or at least moving picture experience with Batman. One that I guess made me pay attention. I know that the '66 Adam West stuff was already in existence, but I wasn't really exposed to that at that point, or maybe I was too young to remember. But it was really just like at that time the modern craze of a new movie coming out, and that being Burton's vision for Batman. Those are my earliest memories, and that's really what ushered in this era of me being completely crazed and being a collector now, a cosplayer, and talking with fine people like you about the character on a day that is dedicated to him.
Yeah, my earliest memory I think would have to probably had to be the animated series because I think I was just born just a year before that show started.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right,
Yes,
yes. We're not that far apart, really. I mean, I'm the mid '80s, so it's I was about 3 years old when the first Burton movie came out. So yeah, that's yeah,
yeah, and I watched through all those live action movies, whether it was with Keaton, Kilmer, and Clooney.
yeah, yeah. And the way you said that, I think I detected a tone of non approval there. Maybe I don't know, but
It's just, I guess, on paper, I feel like George Clooney would be a good choice just because, a charismatic, good looking billionaire type person. I feel like
right,
George Clooney would nail that perfect. Just, I think in costume, given what he was given, I don't think it worked.
right. Well, and that's I think the more interesting study there has always been the characters of Bruce Wayne and Batman, and really how kind of opposing they are, and the juxtaposition really of any actor coming in and uh, needing to understand that you're basically in a dual role and you're playing two different characters. And so in some of those movies, I feel like, okay, they're a great Bruce Wayne, but they sucked as Batman, or vice versa. They're like, wow, like, okay, that's an amazing Batman, but they can't pull off Bruce Wayne. And I honestly feel like there hasn't I mean, I think Adam West, but it's so campy. It's hard to really put it in that conversation. But I feel like, given the time and the context of the '60s and what Batman was like in the comic books, I think he did a great job as both. But even with uh, Keaton, as much as I love Keaton as Batman, um, I don't know, his Bruce Wayne was a little off in my estimation. Whereas, say, someone like George Clooney is great as Bruce Wayne, but totally like no, the not really believable as Batman, and the bat nipples certainly didn't help his case.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not get past that suit. I don't know. It's just like too, too blue purplish.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It's we could. Oh, I've talked about this. How great the first two Burton movies were, and then what Warner Brothers wanted, which basically Burton said no, Keaton said no, wanting it to be more colorful, wanting it to be more kid friendly, and to some people they love uh, Forever and they love Batman and Robin, because maybe they were kids when those movies came out, and that means something to them in terms of nostalgia. But uh, it's just, I mean, Jim, there are things in those movies, not so much Batman and Robin, but Jim Carrey being in Batman Forever, was amazing.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
like that was great. And looking back, I feel like with that movie, the time it came out, it was like pretty much watching a live action version, I guess, of the original, I guess, BTAS show. Because near
Mm,
the end of that show's run, you see Batman and Robin working together, and in that show, Robin was already a college student. So
yeah,
making this movie was kind of, I guess, a perfect way to make how would that look like with in live action with the actors.
right, right. Well, and I think if you've been following in the comics, they have Batman '89 as a comic book series now, and it kind of
Hmm.
continues where Batman Returns left off, and those have been phenomenal. And you're kind of seeing in those books what Burton's vision would have been had it continued. And I know there are conversations about one of the Wayans brothers playing Robin, and now you're seeing that in the pages of the comics, and it's like that wonderful like uh, the translation of seeing something that's being drawn and then in your mind using your imagination to try to like a picture what it would look like if it were real. You're seeing that in the comics, and to me that's part of the fun of reading those books is the what if aspect, something we never actually got years ago. We're getting it now, and it's those that's been part of the fun of reading those.
Yeah, I agree because I actually like the direction they're going with, like how to bring in Robin, but not make him like either a young kid or at least not to be a
Yeah,
typical kind of sidekick. And this was a good balance. And in a way, they took like what Chris Nolan was trying to do in The Dark Knight Rises, but I think made it work better. I think.
yeah. Yeah, and it's very rare for me, honestly, to say that I like anything that kind of goes against what's public knowledge about the origin story of characters. Like I'm very much tried and true when it comes to like respecting the way that a character like a Robin or anybody in the Rogues Gallery, how they were introduced, and it's rare for me to accept when things get changed. It has to be like there are varying factors that have to really influence me accepting that this is I like this, like me, like having that conversation internally and being like, okay, this is what I know, this is what I've always known. But then with so much of everything being focused on multiversal events now and other things now existing and being appropriate within the Batman universe as a whole, with all considering the entire multiverse.
Yep.
I'm starting to ease off on that, I guess, on my sticklerness for how the way I think things should be. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad it's like they didn't name this kid like specifically like Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, or Tim
right,
Drake. It's
right,
just
yeah,
his first name was Drake, and it
right,
was the mixture because like Jason, he was pre- to my knowledge, I mean, he's pretty much like an orphan on the streets, living on his own.
yeah,
But like Tim and Dick, he's pretty savvy, like not like amazing tech savvy, but he knows how to take care of himself and can be pretty agile to to go out fighting crime.
yeah, yeah. I'm not fully caught up on Echoes. The It's still in the middle of its run. I think it's like on issue 4. And I read the first issue, but I haven't caught up on it yet. So I'm interested to see what's going on in the Burton verse.
Yeah, it's funny how they're bringing characters that would have been the major villains for the fifth Batman movie. I think it was called Triumphant.
Triumphant, yeah, hmm,
Yeah, it's for that one where Harley Quinn would be Joker's daughter.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not sure what to make of that. I mean, I guess it could work, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I think this is an appropriate segue for the Amazon series, and if you saw that, that's kind of where I think the train fell off the track by that fifth episode that was dedicated to Harley Quinn. I was like, okay, going back to what I just said about like there's very little wiggle room. There's a fine line in terms of how much creative liberty, creative freedom you take with certain characters. And
Yes.
some of them just go completely full tilt and like, oh, we're just gonna like completely ignore everything you thought you knew about it, and it's just like a whole. It's the same name, but it's a whole different character, really. And that's
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree a bit just because I feel like there is a fine line because like with Batman you can't exactly reinvent because he has to have the parents murder. If you take that away, then what motivation is there? I mean, look at all the
yeah,
other Elseworld stories of Batman. He goes through the same thing. It just doesn't matter where if it's like in the 80s or like in the steampunk era 1920s or wherever.
yeah,
It's a key component with the Robins. There's so many of them. That's why you can like do a little
right,
mix and match so that way it's not the stereotypical like either circus orphan
right,
or even they could have got you could go with just some random kid that discovered who Batman is but wants to help him out for a reason because he's older.
right.
But yeah, with Harley Quinn I feel like I get they may want to change her just because she is at this point she is a very overexposed character, whether it's on her own show, the Suicide Squad. So like, we've seen enough of her being like the typical blonde airhead, but is actually pretty smart.
Yeah,
So I get maybe they want to try something different, but I feel like her origin it is tied to the Joker or Joker. He's a key component. Like that's how
right.
it started. So I feel like taking that away, it's I don't know, but I'm hoping if they do, since they are doing a season two, we might get to see a little bit more of her backstory. That maybe
Yeah,
not necessarily she was affected by the Joker, but maybe she was just a victim of, I guess, of some kind of abuse.
yeah. It felt like to me that they were trying to make Joker mutually exclusive to uh, Harley Quinn. Like I have the way I interpreted what I saw was that this is her time. There's no Joker attachment. There's no like emotional abuse. There was no relationship. There's nothing like this was kind of her time to reintroduce her, to create kind of a new origin for her. I just don't. I didn't find it believable, because I know, especially in the comics, Joker has Punchline now. The new girlfriend is very much gaining popularity, and I think it's because DC has opted to kind of make Harley her own independent character and give her her own path now, free from being tied to the Joker. And it's fine. I mean, everything is everything changes. That's part of culture, and that's part of the world. That's part of life. And the thing is, like, I always choose, especially when it comes to fiction and things like that. I choose to accept and like the things I like, and if I don't, everything. Everybody has an opinion. I certainly have one. I'm not afraid to share that opinion. I'm not going to be deeply affected by it. I'm not going to petition for things to be corrected. But it's that's just there's too
Yeah,
much of that. I feel like today, where it's like, why did they do this? I don't understand. I can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. When the thing is, like, it's not yours. Like it's not. I'm sure if you were in control of something like that at DC, you would you could do more about it. But right now, if there's something you like about the character, just choose to remember what you liked. Go back and revisit that, I guess, and just leave well enough alone.
yeah, I agree. For me personally, I'm 50-50. Like, I like the direction where she's more intimidating when she's in costume. I kind of like
Yeah,
I kind of like her costume redesign, just so that way it's a little bit, it's not the typical red and black, instead with the green and yellow, and even with
yeah,
her hat, like goes with the whole core gesture thing.
right.
But yeah, it was hard to, I guess, connect with her because I feel like this is out of nowhere. Like, why is she doing this now? Like, did something like that's I'm hoping for season two that we may see a little bit of background. And since her professor was Professor Crane, then maybe we get to see like Scarecrow, maybe a season two or something,
Yeah,
or at least if he's just some creepy doctor that does fear experiments without the costume.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that was the unique thing I found about the show. Not in a bad way, but I they gave more time to kind of the B list of Batman rogues and various characters. Because I think for the most part, people always expect to see Joker up front. They expect to see Riddler. We got Penguin up front, and they gender swapped Penguin. And honestly, I was okay with it. I felt like it was done in an appropriate way. It was you know, she still exhibited a lot of the Penguin personality, but just as a female. And I was like, all right, like this is I'm okay with it. But really, I think then it became a little, just watching, beyond the first episode into by the fifth episode with what they did to Harley. I'm like, okay, like you know,
Yeah,
it got to be a bit too much for me. But to finish my point though, like uh, I think what you're going to see in the second season is more now a heavier focus of Joker, and I think he might have even more of a staying arc between the episodes, because I think didn't they introduce him, or they suggest like they did something at the end of that first season, right, with Joker.
Yep, it was basically where he was experimenting his laughing gas on five people, and one of them managed to have like the smile
Right,
stretch. And
right,
I,
yeah,
I gotta say, I think they're doing something really unique because when I heard his one line, that was like, whoa, 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 this is their Joker. I mean, that's surprising. But I read that for the Golden Age version of Joker, he's not exactly like the whole Mark Hamill kind of voice.
right,
He's more sinister, especially with his eyes. Like I always like it when
yeah,
Joker has like the red eyes.
yeah, yeah. I don't. It's like I was saying, like to me, there will never be another Kevin Conroy. There'll never be another, Mark Hamill Joker, because the
Agreed.
nostalgia roots are very deeply planted, I think, in a lot of us, like even myself. So you just have to allow yourself to get excited when new things come out, and understand that they're going to try new things nowadays, because uh, we already know so much about all of these characters, and uh, everything is should be open, I guess, to uh, new creative discretion. And like I said, the best way to combat it if you don't like it is just to remember that there's something out there likely that you do appreciate, and they can't take that away from you, at least not yet. We are in a digital world now, so
Yeah.
we don't really own anything, and if they don't want us to have it anymore, they can take it away. But just remember that there's still other stuff out there that you can always go back and revisit and deepen your appreciation for those things, which is a lot of what I do now. So
Yeah, I agree because I feel like with the adaptations we have with The Dark Knight Returns and Hush,
yeah,
I mean, as I think as good as the casting did for those movie adaptations, I feel like for both of those, I wouldn't mind if they had Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and like the rest of the original voice cast at the time. Like for
yeah,
Hush, maybe like early 2000s, at least like before the Jim
yeah,
Gordon actor was still alive. And I feel like for the Dark Knight Returns, that would be perfect for all most of those characters at the time because of how older
yeah.
they got and everything. And but granted,
Well,
I feel like for RoboCop, I think he did a good job though as
Peter Weller, yeah,
yeah, Peter Weller. He did a great job as an older Bruce Wayne. Like he definitely sounds older because for Kevin, like he can sound older, but he can still sound like a Batman in his like 40s or 30s. Like so,
yeah, yeah,
I can't really imagine him sounding like a grandpa.
yeah, yeah. Well, I will say, like the animated Hush, I hated that it because like I Hush meant so much to me as a book. That was one instance where I just wanted them to respect that material and make it animated, And the stuff they did there at the end with Riddler, I was just like, I felt that it went across the grain a little too much. But I will say, like Dark Knight Returns, uh, probably how they did that. I loved it. It's probably my favorite Batman media thing that exists. Like there were instances, of course, where it didn't really follow the book super closely, but it didn't affect my enjoyment of it. And I loved the voice work. I loved Peter Weller. I think, to your point, that book coming out in '86 and Peter Weller being RoboCop and having aged to the point where I thought his voice was really rich for an older Batman and Bruce Wayne. I loved the animation of that movie. I loved the music. It just had a grittiness to it that I really just fell in love with it, and I still revisit that whenever I'm like dying for Batman content because I loved everything really that it provided. So
Yeah, because I miss like when DC would do these animated adaptations when they would not only try to do a full adaptation of a comic book, but even try to match the look of it as close
yeah,
as they can. I mean,
yeah,
granted, with the new 52 shared universe, it did make sense because they're going with the Jim Lee influence with the character designs and everything. So I guess it worked.
yeah.
And I feel like
Well,
Hush was a good progression to like where it's a point where Batman's already established and with all the villains and everything. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess
I think with the animated movies, uh, the expectations are so high, and I feel like with those they can be so easily met because if you have a book like Hush that is widely accepted and widely recognized as one of the great Batman stories ever, all you have to do is just produce animation cells, make it look, make the art style and the art direction look like it did in the book, and that one just fell flat because it didn't achieve that, and then b it changed the story effectively. And to me it's like that's where I'm like, okay, I'm out. Like you, like, and that's where you get the high expectations because like, oh, it's a new version of this thing that I really love, and it already exists. They're just trying to uh, provide it and release it in a new form, a new way of existing. It's going from a comic book, from still art to now being in a moving form, and it's like all you have to do is just respect the source material, make it look that way, and I think it'd be beloved. And instead, those are opportunities
yeah.
that DC takes to change some of that, the messaging and some of the plot points. And I'm like, why do you do that? Why?
Yeah, I have to agree because I'm 50-50 on with what they done with Hush. I mean, I feel like it might because part of me feels like it makes sense for Riddler, I guess, like on paper, just because like Riddler's always treated as a joke villain, so I feel like him deciding to like level up, it makes sense like with his plan. But then I feel like why introduce Thomas Elliot if you're just gonna actually kill him off?
Right.
Because I feel like if you're gonna just waste a character that's barely introduced, but I get it because they don't want people to think, oh, this guy's obviously going to be the new bad guy. But
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like they should have had him be introduced in the earlier Batman movies of that universe, like maybe like first or second one, just as like maybe like in the background or just as a friend, so that way it'd be even bigger surprise for people who have not read the comic.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel like with the Long Halloween adaptation, I say they did a better job than Hush.
Yeah, they did, but I will be honest, like I just didn't get immersed in it. I watched part one, and then I don't I don't even think I watched the second part of it because I think that was at a time really where I was just starting to get turned off by, for as good as DC animation was, especially in the beginning of it around 2010 or so, with everything they were doing, really, like I was saying, they were being very respectful to source material. They were just doing that. They were just kind of providing a carbon copy, but in a new form, and it was great. And then, like, as things kind of progressed to where we are now, really, it's like they're looking at this as opportunities to reinvent things, that reinvent successful things that don't need to be reinvented, really. And so, like, I just don't give a lot of my time to things like that when I feel like, I can see where it's going, and I'm not going to like it. So I just stop. I just stop. And like I said, that's a moment for me to go and, well, I still have the book. I can go back and read that. And I try
Yeah,
not to
but I feel like
let
for the
my
long Halloween, it didn't do too off the beaten path. I feel like they were pretty much faithful, just maybe
yeah.
changed up at the end with Harvey's wife Gilda for how I guess she was the one that did all the killings, but they changed up her backstory instead of just for having Harvey around more. It was payback against the Falcones because this they changed that it'd be a little thing I guess where her and Alberto they were a thing. They're about to have a baby, but the family did not approve of this and pretty much forced an abortion. So that's why she goes out as Holiday with a baby ball nipple thing as a silencer to kill, as a guess to
Hmm.
send a message. And I feel like that's pretty twisted. It kind of I don't know, like part of me kind of felt it took me back to Mask of the Phantasm with the reveal of Andrea
Drea,
being the
yeah.
guy in the costume. But yeah, to me, I feel like the animation of that style, it felt like a copy of like the original '90s series, especially for Catwoman's look. It was just the same as like in the '90s, just a more darker gray costume.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but back to with the Cape Crusader, what do you think of how with how do you think what they done with that version of Batman and Bruce Wayne? Do you think that was like on point or like I know
Yeah.
it's no Kevin Conroy, but
Yeah. It's not Conroy, but actually, I had very few notes for Batman and Bruce Wayne. I liked the design, the character design, especially of Bruce. I didn't mind the voice acting. I thought that I thought he sounded better as Bruce Wayne. Uh, his Batman was growing on me, I guess, still growing on me. Um, I just, it's there are things I really enjoyed about it. I mean, overall, going back to the 1930s and having that aesthetic, I think it was good for it. Um, it was kind of a nice, uh, you know, uh, what's the word I'm looking for in comparison to the animated series, for instance. Uh,
like I guess
just
I guess like more I guess a more faithful 1940s somewhat. I guess as far as with technology and stuff because like
yeah,
Batman didn't have anything too high tech in comparison,
right,
and they had like regular like old school phones and phone booths,
yeah,
and there was like
yeah,
no computer screen for anything. Batman's cave was just like an office.
yeah, yeah. I did. I did like that. I thought that it reminded me a lot of like the old serials with Lewis Wilson. That kind of a feel, just animated, and the vaudevillian nature of some of the baddies. And I was a little off put by his relationship with Alfred at the beginning, but then as I watched it to the end, I was like, okay, it makes sense now. You know,
Yeah,
like
still it was weird of him just calling him Pennyworth.
Pennyworth, yeah, Pennyworth. But then I was like, there has to be a moment here where he realizes that Alfred is uh, family. Like and it got there. Thankfully, because I was waiting for it. I'm like, if it hadn't happened, I would have been like, okay, what is this? Like, why? This is his faithful servant. And that would have been, I feel like, kind of distasteful. If they hadn't put something in that storyline about having that aha moment, that moment where Bruce and Batman realize that Alfred means more to them than they realize. So I was, I'm okay with that now. But some of the stuff, like uh, I don't know, just the Harley Quinn thing, really just like no, nope, just not a fan of that one. But
Yeah, I guess I feel like if this was like Harley Quinn, but like not as a debut episode for her, like if this was like her starting out on her own after like let's say breaking up with the Joker, then this would make more sense.
yeah,
Yeah, because it reminded me of the Birds of Prey TV show where she was where she was a therapist for Helena Wayne during the daytime, but then in secret she was just trying to rebuild the Joker's empire.
yeah,
So it's but that's yeah, but I feel like with the show it's best moments and episodes I think had to be with their take on Clayface, Catwoman,
yeah,
Gentleman Ghost,
yeah,
even that
yeah,
episode with Onomatopoeia, then even
yeah,
with Nocturna, because I love the fact that she was targeting the kids who would be Robins in the comics.
yeah. Yeah, I really liked that episode, and I loved the Catwoman episode, and that was uh, really anything that I see now, Batman and Catwoman with the cat and mouse game, cat and bat game. It's very reminiscent of really my relationship. And Katie, and she's my Catwoman, so like I always now it's like an added incentive that I get to see something Batman, Catwoman, and then I get to relate that to our relationship. And being cosplayers, me obviously being kind of more experienced and more involved in it, but her, being addressing as Catwoman on a number of occasions, those kinds of things always give us new fodder for our imagination. And again, her character design was magnificent because that's respecting kind of the her very early looks of having kind of the purple dress, and the green cape, and
Yeah.
and those that's honestly I still think one of my favorites looks for her. So really love that episode.
Yeah, and I definitely like the one with I think with Onomatopoeia with for one, I mean he was a unique villain. I mean, kind of weird with the whole like speaking only in sound effects, but I like the twist
Yeah,
and focus with the police department. How Jim Corrigan was about to shoot Barbara, whereas she was a target instead of Gordon.
yeah,
But I think my favorite part have to be with is had to be I think the build up with Two Face because I feel like they did a better build up with him becoming Two Face than they did in the original '90s
yeah.
series.
Yeah, and I even liked. I mean, to me, it doesn't it can't lay hands on the '92 animated series. I mean, I loved Two Face in the original animated show. I had a couple of issues with Two Face here, but I did like hearing Diedrich Bader's voice. I thought he was great as Harvey, and I liked it. That change when he had to be more aggressive as Two Face because him as Batman, the Brave and the Bold. That's one of my favorite versions. My favorite iterations of Batman. Loving that series, that cartoon.
Yeah, that was a great
Always,
show.
it's always very strange. He was the voice of Batman. So like I hear him as Batman, and then I'm watching this show, and here he is now as a different character. It's a very interesting choice, but I thought he did a good job. He did a good job as
Agreed.
Harvey.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he didn't go with the Richard Mall impression because I feel like after him for voice work, every other actor does like an impression of him. Like the only like it's only Dietrich Bader, and I would say even William Shatner just didn't do a direct.
Yeah, Shatner. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was another good Two Face impression, like where a Two Face depiction. I think where it was. I feel like that's what they would have gone with in the '60s if they had the time and budget for that.
right. Yeah,
Although
I
I heard,
agree.
although I heard they're going to have Clint Eastwood play him back in the day.
Oh, I had not heard that. That would have been very. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah, but I say Shatner, I think, did the was a better choice, just so that way he can split between Harvey and Two Face.
Yeah,
But yeah, but
that's weird.
yeah,
Eastwood was a pick for Superman before Reeve. Think imagine that.
I
Yeah,
can't see it. Like maybe Batman if they were going to try something different for like maybe a '70s or early '80s, like before he got too old for it. But Superman, I don't know. Like I mean, that's just funny. Like so I heard they were trying to pick him, either pick maybe Arnold or Stallone, just because of I guess the muscle build
yeah.
probably.
Stallone was a choice. Robert Redford was a choice. Like all just imagine, any of those what we know of those of those actors, like just their features alone. Uh, an Italian stallion Superman. It just would have been. It just wouldn't have worked. Like the choice they made, uh, Christopher Reeve, which I'm very excited because I'm going to go see this documentary tonight. I can't wait to see that. I know I'm going to be. I'll be sitting. I'm going to be sitting in my chair in tears because I think of anything in terms of comic books and these characters. That movie in particular has had the most profound impact on my life, and I can't wait to see how they do his story tonight. See it on the big screen.
Yeah, it should be something.
Yeah.
But what do you think of like for Two Face in the show, like with his face, I guess his scarred face being flipped?
Yeah, well, it. I thought it was ugly. I wasn't offended that it was flipped necessarily. But I just thought that it felt like a very low effort, uh, a very low effort animation to um, have him look the way that they made him look. I don't know. It certainly
Yeah,
wasn't something that I, you know, loved.
yeah. Because to me, I always like the '90s, but I do appreciate that for this show they were going for maybe not for Scarface to be evil or monstrous looking, just maybe more sad. Like I don't know, just because like,
Right,
and I like the twist where like the physical may be flipped, but I say the good and bad sides they are definitely not.
right, right.
Although I kind of wish he wasn't killed off so early, but oh well. They're not going with the whole like they get locked up and then it's like when they're coming back again.
Yeah.
But which begs the question, I guess, for the for the next Bam movie with Pattinson, like
Oh,
what do you hope for that one? Because there's rumors that for the storyline, it's going to explore more of Gotham's corruption, most notably probably the Court of Owls.
right. I mean, I've heard that it's supposed to take place in winter. Uh, I've heard everything from Court of Owls to, with it being based in winter, it's a Mr. Freeze storyline. I heard at one point that it was Hush. Um, I'm not a fan of that universe. I didn't really like the Batman. The Reeves verse is not. I didn't like the casting of Pattinson to begin with. I don't think he did well as either character. Like, there's nothing redeeming about him as Batman or as Bruce. Just the emo vibe. I just like, you know, it's like he's depressed as Bruce Wayne, and it's almost like he doesn't get any enjoyment out of being Batman. Like it felt like this obligation that he didn't really want. Like I don't know. I just was
But isn't
there
that
were
kind of his thing anyway? Like that's usually his thing anyway in general. Like he never really wants this.
yeah. Well, I mean there are versions though where at least the versions I like where he enjoys that he gets to find criminals and basically beat them up. I think of like Brave and the Bold Batman. There's Jim Lee did All Star Batman. Like
Oh
where he
yeah, that
thoroughly enjoys kind of having like I'm as much as psychotic as the villains I chase, but like that there's that edge to him, I guess, that I like to see, and I just felt like the Batman, although albeit a great detective style noir movie, that's very much Batman. I just didn't like the depressing tones of it. Were just like, and I felt like it drug on. It felt like a 4 hour movie. I know it wasn't
yeah
that long. I liked, and I'm trying to like, okay, what are the redeeming aspects? The music was phenomenal. I loved the car chase, chasing the penguin. I loved the cinematography of that. Um, like those things to me resonate. Like I'm going to remember those things, but for the most part, I didn't like the suit, and again, people know I'm an aesthetics guy, and like the suit has to be, it has to scream Batman, and there was too much of the military tactician armored stuff going on there
yeah.
that
It looked just too patched together.
yeah, and the cowl, I just, and the way he looked in it again, like he didn't do it for me, and that's why I'm hoping in the Gunverse here that we get someone that like Alan Richson, who's Reacher. I think I'd love to see him in a Hush style suit because
Yeah, I
that's the
could see
guy
it.
that he eats his protein. He's not a berries guy, and he's going to look completely jacked for the movie. And I think he would do great. I'd love to see that. I don't know. Nothing against people who love the Matt Reeves, and I thought Colin Farrell as Penguin that he was the best part of the movie, and that's why I'm sure he got his own HBO show that's going to be starting very soon. Like
Oh yeah,
that.
the first episode's already out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like I haven't seen that yet, but he did an amazing job, and he deserved the spinoff. But I don't care about the Pattinson as Batman or Bruce Wayne. I just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I hope for this. Yeah, for me with Pattinson, he was like okay. I mean, I think as Batman, I mean, it kind of worked for him,
Yeah,
like being very quiet, like very like not sociable with much of the police. Because I always liked how he just stares at them when one of them just asks questions or something. I just feel
yeah.
like yeah, that makes sense. But the suits, it's yeah, it's a mix. Although in my list, you might some people are going to be happy or disappointed with the results of where that might be, but I won't say in which category.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, but
But
I'm hoping.
I think you know where it stands in my book. I hope I just made that clear. So,
Yeah, because honestly, to me, like the live action suits after the Dark Knight, they're not among my favorites. I think the only one that might be my favorite from like is maybe the tactical suit Ben Affleck wore in Justice League. Well,
yeah,
maybe minus the goggles thing, the goggles maybe, but I feel
yeah.
like that and maybe his Dark Knight Returns armored look, like that was pretty cool. But
Are we
besides,
are we going there now officially? Are we going to break down our top five suits?
sure, I get yeah, that's a good way. I guess actors and suits. I guess like
Well,
like
the suits for
what's your
me, I feel like the suits for me and the look and the aesthetic is more important than the person who filled it. Like not saying that's not important. Like I don't think the Tim Burton Batman suit would have the same charm without Michael Keaton's puckered lips inside of it. unable to turn his head. There's a charm to that whole image. But that's certainly in terms of live action suits. The original '89 Batman suit, just very striking, all black with the gold belt and the yellow oval. Probably my number one. And anything else on that list, there's a giant gap, I would say, between one and the others. I felt like from the Dark Knight trilogy, like the original Begins suit, I liked it very much. I didn't. They made the joke about him wanting to be able to turn his head, and then they changed it, and then I didn't like it. I didn't like it when they when they did that. Uh, the Batman suit is not on the list. It's very hard to even come up with five in live action. Honestly, I think if we want to count like some of the stuff that Bat in the Sun has done, Kevin Porter, I feel like those are great suits. Those always are very pleasing to the eye. Um, and again, I'm anxious to see what Gunn does with his look. I hope that if it's anything like Superman, where he's trying to respect some of the legacy, the more iconic bits of Batman's look,
Yeah.
um, I'm anxious to see what that looks like. I hope that it's kind of a true gray and blue, or at least navy and gray, like distinguishing, between the two colors. And I'd love, we saw it in Wolverine, the eye white. I'd love for them to be able to finally do that for Batman. I don't think there's an excuse now that exists that they couldn't do it, because they did that so well in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I've been dying for that for a long time. Um,
Yeah, I mean, at least they did in the Dark Knight when he had the sonar mode activated,
Sonar, yeah, yeah,
and even for Ben Affleck with when he had that armor near
yeah,
the end of BVS. But
yeah,
yeah, for me with for my suits, like I definitely like the first one more because I liked how it's, I don't know, very elemental. Like it looks like he definitely has a very creature night aesthetic with I don't know, with the whatever material, the cape and the cowl, it just looks very imposing.
yeah,
Yeah, and besides that, I do like the Dark Knight a bit. Mostly, I think some of the functions.
sure,
So, and I guess and be able to turn his neck around, but I don't know. I do in some ways. I do like the Begins one too. I don't know. I feel like maybe for the third one they should have done like style wise, maybe like a little mix and match of like the two, like where maybe like it'd be lighter, but still has like maybe the look of the Begins a little bit. Maybe
yeah,
hard to say, but who knows?
yeah.
Despite
I think my part of my issue with like the Dark Knight trilogy is that the bat on his chest was barely even noticeable. Like
yeah, it was pretty small.
that was a problem for me, because like that's such an important identifier. I get that, the long ears, the pointed ears, okay, it's going to be obvious that's Batman, but I feel like seeing him on screen, it's kind of like Indiana Jones, like, yeah, the fedora, but you also, the whip, the jacket, like these are important identifiers. And for Batman, having more of an embossed look, or at least some kind of outline, something that's like, okay, the bat on his chest, like that's part of Batman. That's Batman, and that was always something at the time that I was always very kind of put off by, was that you couldn't make it out really. It was all just black, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I say for that one, they definitely made sure he would blend well with the shadows. Although
Sure, yeah,
in Begins, at least, like when he's like, I don't know, like if he was standing like, on a statue or something, or on top of a statue, like that one shot after a night of crime fighting, that was a really good shot with the cape and everything.
yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
and
I also
besides,
will say I'll give a nod to, the despite how campy, the Adam West, like there is just something, it's kind of become timeless, and it's, I think, because of its simplicity. It's the '60s, and it's more true to the comic books of that time, but there is an appreciation that I have for that Adam West '66 Batman look. I think because of how, that's the really the infancy of Batman on television or in movies. And
Yep.
there wasn't the technology didn't exist. Like all the stuff that now is almost a demand that Batman's suit have XY ability to do whatever thing. That's that suit was so simplistic, and again it was a joke, and it was campy, and the way that he was able to fish things out of his utility belt that would not have fit in there. It was but none of that was considered an insult to a viewer's intelligence at that time. That was part of entertainment back then, and
Yep.
I do miss that, and I do appreciate that. So I have to give a nod to that suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, like besides that, my favorite suits. Let's see, Keaton, Bale a bit, and let's see. I'm not sure what's for live action. I mean, I didn't necessarily grow up with Adam West, but I guess
Yeah,
among my favorite would have to be the Batman Beyond suit.
yeah. Oh yeah, I mean when we're talking about uh, animation and comics, I mean then it's endless. The suits, Hush suit, the Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne. The there's so many of those. The
Yep.
Brayfogle suit. Again, that whole like '70s, '80s, early '90s era. Where really his look didn't change at all. Like that really had a great maturation period. So many great stories that happened within those 20 plus years right there. And that's the suit that he was wearing. Really fond of that. Uh, that there've been a lot too, I would say, in the comics in the last 20 years that have been really impressive. And I've seen a lot of really impressive cosplay. The rebirth, the new 52 and the rebirth style, despite how much I don't really care for those stories, there's still something to be said about his look that I liked. I kind of liked the purple on the inside of the cape. Those kinds of like nods to his first appearances.
Yeah.
Those things I really like. But I will say by far the worst suit of all time is the Gotham finale suit. That thing was oof. That thing
Yeah.
was rough.
I mean, I mean, honestly, uh, that suit looks better when when he's like very cloaked in the shadows and we only see him from the perspective of others.
Yeah.
But
I
man,
didn't watch I will say I didn't watch the series when it was running, and I only knew that like after the fact, the day after, on social media, when they said that, oh, the series ended and he becomes Batman, and because of the outcry of how it looked, I had to see for myself, and I very much agreed that that thing was like his ab plate on his abdomen looked like a pizza pie. Like it was cut into like eight. It didn't look like a traditional 6 or 8 pack, like most suits that are made for superheroes look. I don't know what they were trying to do there. It looked like an absolute joke, and it was because I laughed heartily at it. So
yeah, and the cowl design was a bit off, and I mean, I didn't mind the symbol they put on. It was like I don't know, it's like it was very different than normal. It's like very
right, yeah,
like the wide wings is like very more downward, I guess,
yeah,
or
yeah,
something. But yeah, just I mean, and I watched the show. Like it's I wouldn't say it was like amazing all the time, but it has good moments. Mostly with the
yeah,
kid who was like a pre Joker or perhaps an influence for the real
yeah,
Joker. We don't know because they did this whole thing where like, oh, there's two of them, just twins. Kind of guess with the whole like how there's two Jokers in a deck.
yeah,
But I did like how there's different personalities. Like one was very more like kind of like a Mark Hamill ish Joker with the maniacal laughing, causing chaos, that sort of thing. But then the other twin was he started being more serious, sinister, and had more of the obsessive mastermind kind of vibe. And he actually nailed the look well, but then they did the whole acid fall thing, where then he looks
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like his hair is falling out, which I guess that would make sense, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They were
I
just
can't.
covering a lot, and yet with Bruce just still being a kid.
Right. Yeah, I can't say that I'm well versed in the Gotham series. I haven't watched. I don't think I've watched a full episode. I don't those episodic things like back in the day, stuff that was like especially on CW. Like I didn't watch a lot of Smallville. I didn't watch Gotham. I don't know much about the Arrowverse either. I think I tuned in when they had the Crisis event, and that was more because of like Brandon Routh coming back to be a Kingdom Come version of Superman. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
The suit looked amazing. I'm like, those are things that kind of really enticed me to come back and watch it. But for the most part, I don't, I don't invest because there's too much. Like it's a TV budget, and there's some cringe to it that I just, I don't.
Yeah, the only good that's one of the good things about Gotham is just when they bring in the character like either Jerome or Jeremiah, just because how he does the role of, I guess, of these two different characters, it's really good. Like as Jerome, it's like he does a pretty good like mix and match, I guess, of like some of the other Joker actors with a little bit of Ledger, Hamill, and even Nicholson a bit.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe not so much Nicholson, but maybe more Nicholson when he's
Yeah.
Jeremiah, like the twin.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
Well, yeah,
like
because you can't upset anybody if you can find a way to like do all the Jokers at once, right? Like, well, he's in there, Nicholson's in there and Ledger's in there, like they're all in there. So like, there's going to be a piece of the way that actor played the Joker. It's going to satisfy all the fans of any given Joker. So,
yeah, like they even do the whole thing where like his face got cut off but then reattached.
oh, okay, all right.
But that's just for one of them. Then the other is like I guess he was exposed to some kind of laughing gas, but it was different. And then like they had one of them do like that pose from the Killing Joke with the
Oh,
smile
the camera, yeah.
and everything, and it decolorized his skin. It didn't give him green hair because I guess legally the show couldn't use the name Joker.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why,
Weird.
but instead like his hair was turning more black, which I guess is a nice touch because in some of the
Huh.
comics and animated series, it was always like some of them looked like it had like dark green hair, like I don't know, it was black but with like a little green shine.
Interesting. That might have been because it was on Fox and it wasn't on like CW or something. It might have been a distribution thing.
Yeah, but I would say like luckily he's not like a whole season arc. I would say just watch a few episodes of seeing Cameron Monaghan in them, and I say you won't be disappointed with his portrayal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly know, it's impossible when you're, big a fan as I am and all the other Batman, all the DC stuff that I follow and I see, like I'm very aware of its existence, and I've seen things here and there online, social media. I just haven't actually sat down and watched a full episode, but like I remember, seeing snapshots of various actors and actresses in costume throughout that run, those years, and there were times where I thought, oh, well, maybe, this looks interesting. I just, would get too busy and not actually sit down to watch it. But, you know,
Yeah. No, I got you. It's hard it's hard nowadays, even for me, to stay committed with every show,
well,
especially
yeah,
with
there's just so much, it's one of those things that even with like the Marvel stuff, which I'm not the biggest Marvel fan in the world, but, like the
oh yeah,
constant.
don't get me started with that. Like just
Well,
so
okay, well, it's not because like Agatha is out, and like last night there was a lull where we were. wondering, okay, what is there to watch? And so we started the first episode, and that was painful. We got through like half of that, and I was like, "Nope, I'm done." Turn that off. And there's,
Yeah, like
I think we've reached a point as a society and a culture. I hope I don't. Maybe this isn't true, but it is for me. Like I just don't give a lot of my time to things that if they don't hit me right away with something impressive, I just like because there's so many you're going to hear reviews from YouTubers and so forth. So like if something really is worth your time and you have a YouTuber that you really appreciate, like you think their reviews are spot on, then I'll just wait and I will listen to what they have to say about it, and then I'll choose whether or not to invest my time, because there's so much content now, not just on streaming platforms, but then you bake in YouTube and then all audio podcast, like all there's just complete
yeah, just
inundation of content. With that being said, I'm hoping to start my own YouTube again. So wouldn't you know it?
yeah. No, I agree because it's a lot because with everyone's different opinions and reviews about certain things, and I don't know. It's like I like Marvel, but I watched a few of the shows like with WandaVision because I like
Yeah,
the direction they're going with and all like the callbacks to earlier shows, and I watched through some of them, but not all of them grab my attention. Like I even
right.
watched Miss Marvel before watching the Marvels, and I only watched that because a few friends wanted to see it. Although
Yeah,
I did enjoy it because it was a very silly, funny movie, but it's just too much. Not every single character in Marvel needs to have their own
right.
series or movie. Just like have them be a part of like a bigger group ensemble or something. That's what I liked
Yeah,
when the CW they had Legends of Tomorrow, so that way you get a good selection of supporting characters from a couple of the shows as their own thing. So that way it's a good way to cut corners where you can have as much focus you want on these other characters.
yeah. That's something else. Legends of Tomorrow. I didn't. Was that on Max or was that CW?
That was CW, and even I'll admit, like after a while, like I think after maybe 4 seasons, I think I stopped paying attention because I honestly after Crisis, like it was hard to connect to it because I really liked Stephen Amell's Green Arrow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I get grief every now and then. Like a Superman fan, but I haven't watched most of Smallville, and I haven't watched the Superman and Lois. I just
That one's pretty good. That one's pretty good. I that one I'm willing to say I watched it because I liked the dynamic between Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch. I liked they do a pretty good job with how they portray themselves as Clark and Lois, and it's interesting with them being parents.
yeah. That was having two sons. That was a new. That was kind of a new in the multiverse, a new thing. A new introduction there. That
Yeah, but luckily that's a good thing. Like for this show, they're keeping it self-contained. Like you don't need to watch like anything else, or it's all about with Superman. I mean, they do a little something with the multiverse, but it's just because after Crisis. But that's it.
hmm,
But beyond that, like there's like no other connections. It's its own story, and I kind of like that they have a good family focusing of like trying to build something as a family and everything. And for its last season, they're I don't know if you've seen much social media, but they're building up towards a very popular storyline.
yeah, it's the death, right? In Doomsday, is that what they're gonna
Y-
do?
yep, yep, they are setting that up, and like it was a season finale for last season, so it's for season opener. It looks like they're doing like the finale, I guess, of that fight. But I will say this though, I think they did one of the best portrayals of Bizarro live action. Because for
Oh,
one,
really?
yeah, because for one, they went with the original version of Bizarro, not a clone.
Oh,
In,
cool.
Instead, it's from a different world, but where it's in a way and it's a bizarre world, but he's like the way he is, not just because it's a bizarre world exactly. He started off normal, but it's just different. It's just because I guess his physiology responds differently to a different set of kryptonite that made him look all like white, his skin like kind of breaking apart, and sometimes he just like jitters around a little bit. And when he's in the normal world, he speaks backwards.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, that's I would like that.
Yeah, and they make sure that his costume it looks all like the cape's all like ripped apart and everything.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
may have to check that out.
yeah, I mean, luckily it's a very short series, only 4 seasons and not even a lot of episodes. Just usually think about 15, 13.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty too of streaming. Like everything exists in perpetuity now. So, if I haven't watched it, if I didn't watch it back in its run, like it's out there now to be consumed, ready to be consumed. All the content is right there at your fingertips. So
Oh
I
yeah,
just end up going back and revisiting the things that I know, further deepening my nostalgic roots for the original Chris Reeve movies or Tim Burton Batman, or usually I'm just watching Raiders of the Lost Ark for the 1,850,000th time. So
yeah, I know, I agree that like there's a charm with the Burton films. It
yeah,
really feels because I really always liked how there's a sense of style and aesthetic to, especially even with Gotham. Like it feels like its
yeah,
own city.
yeah. Well, and there's so many instances. This is a whole different topic, but Warner Brothers getting in their own way and shooting themselves in the foot and firing people that are doing a fantastic job and that fans love. There's just so many examples of that in the last
Yeah,
40 years of them as a studio producing superhero films. With what happened, Dick Donner and then Burton. Then, like, whether or not you like the Snyder stuff, firing Zack Snyder, bringing in Joss Whedon, it just like these
yeah,
constricting, or not constricting, but contrasting visions and directive styles that just
yeah,
like make viewers like scratch their head, and yet somehow there is an affinity for Superman 3 and 4, and there is an affinity for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and I'm sure somewhere in some dark sect of the world there's love for the Justice League, in its original cinematic theatrical iteration version. But
yeah,
I don't I those are some folks who might need a reevaluation of some things. I don't know, but it just pains me. Again, I know it's Batman Day, but like the Chris Reeve stuff in particular, firing Dick Donner, bringing in Pierre Spangler, and then the way 3 and 4. 3 isn't even a Superman movie. It's basically a Richard Pryor movie starring Superman, and then 4. From what I hear, 4 could have been so much better, but then the budget wasn't there, so they cut that to pieces. you know
yep.
it's just like, wow, what a you have this gift of an actor who's fit for this character, and this is what now exists for the rest of eternity, really, is these horrible movies. But there are moments, I guess, within where you just have to find the appreciation and accept them for what they are. But
Yeah, that's how I feel like for some of the movies because I liked Batman Forever in some parts because one, at least Tim Burton was a producer, so he had some say in it.
yeah,
And also I would say for with Pattinson, I feel like if Matt Reeves took a different direction with how he looked and everything as Bruce Wayne, and maybe with patching up, maybe doing some kind of upgrade with the suit, I feel like it could work because I don't know. There's one I don't know because I always found like one shot of him in a nice suit with the short hair. He could pull off Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Well, that's one surefire way I think to get people like me reinvested. It would be to change up the look, give him a better suit. You know, go away from the raw organics of something that was made by hand. You know, with what he was supposedly wearing as Batman in this first movie, and going with maybe something I don't know looks a little more advanced, but also has a good colorway. It looks appropriate to um, at least what I like to see from the character. Um, but who knows? I still that's just it'd be one small way to get me to I guess get more excited about the fact that there's another one coming, because there was a lot from the first one that I just thought was kind of a strange choice. So,
Yeah, I agree. But let's hope for the future, and I do hope that we get to see Catwoman again this movie because I liked her character too, along with the Penguin in that movie.
yeah,
It was a good, I guess, like mix of like Year One and Darwin Cook art style of Catwoman brought to life. As far
yeah, yeah,
as Selena, I mean, the whole like cat mask thing, like it was like okay, but like but if, I guess like if she was starting out not without going with the namesake, then that's fine. But hopefully in the if she appears in the second one, then maybe she'll have more of a cat mask.
yeah, yeah. We will see. They kind of left that open ended. You're not sure if you'll see her in the sequel because of how they kind of parted ways at the end, and rode off in separate directions. So it's one of those things where clearly she could. The door is open, but it's not a certainty that she will be in the sequel. So uh, who knows? We'll see.
True. If not the first sequel, then maybe the third one, because I think Reeves had like a trilogy planned out, but
Oh, I'm
get
sure.
but given the with the gun verse, we'll see how that goes.
Well, this is my other nitpick, and I know like we're kind of past time here, but like I just none of these things. Like I'm not a Marvel fan, but I've always said like, damn, if they've got it all like pieced together, like some of it might be really bad, but like at least it all fits into this puzzle and it makes sense in terms of the track they're headed on. Like that initial phase one, 10 years of Marvel movies, like all that fits perfectly into this puzzle that led to Endgame. And then you got DC over here who I love dearly, but then they can't figure out, anything that makes sense that fits into a similar universe that, would then deepen the investment that moviegoers would make on, wow, well, this thing happened, with Batman, and now over in Metropolis in the same universe, Superman, this Superman movie is going to
Yeah,
have this, and now everything is like, oh no, they're not connected, they're not linked. You've got Todd Phillips Joker, you got Matt Reeves Batman, but they're not ever going to meet. They're never going to like that's and like what a missed opportunity for people who really love those things, and then yet you're never gonna they're never gonna cross paths. I just think that,
yeah.
and with the
That's
gun,
oh sorry.
with the gun verse thing, I think that's meant to kind of correct that. But now we're at a point where Marvel has oversaturated the movie industry with having a movie out every year and then shows streaming on Disney Plus. It's just, I reached a point. I tell people like I'm kind of exhausted. Like, yeah, I'm excited to see what Gunn is going to do with Superman, but like trying to get amped up to go and see like Creature Commandos or whatever else is going to become like Peacemaker season two, like these things. Like I don't, I just don't. I don't have that kind of a commitment anymore. But
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
no, I agree. I mean, Peacemaker was okay as far as if you want like some slapstick humor, although there was an underlying some serious moments,
yeah,
but yeah, like the only thing that really got me excited for was with Kate Crusader, and it didn't meet some of my expectations because I guess I liked how some things were different, some things were
yeah,
familiar and such, and I hope if with James Gunn's how he's doing Superman, I hope it does well. I mean, because to be honest, I wouldn't have him as a first choice for a director. Like maybe for someone like Green Lantern, or maybe some of the more people that are primarily in space, just because of Guardians. Because like with Guardians, he did a phenomenal job because everything's like all in space.
right. And I think people right now are just under the impression that the new Superman is going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4. You know, it's going to be kind of the same, that same colorway, the same kind of a shtick, you know. So I am curious, given how he directed the Guardians movies, when we go to see it, I'm sure a lot of that will be apparent, how much influence the success of the Guardians movies, how much he brought over to bring to Superman.
Yeah,
Which I think, you know, some of that would work. I think some of the more comedic elements, uh, Superman benefits from that. You know, and I do think having a brighter color palette, you know, like that was the big thing for me, was just bring back the vibrance, you know, because that translates to hope. Having him in a dark navy suit and dark red cape, like everything being dark, to me did not translate to this is a hopeful character. But what I've seen now of the behind the scenes, you know, the leaked photos, you know, the suit itself again has those bright colors, very much in that Donner Reeve style, and I
yeah,
think
I agree because with that shot, I feel like that's a weird first poster reveal. I feel like, I mean, I don't think that's not really a poster. That's just an idea, I guess, for what will be like maybe a
yeah,
third act or something. But
I don't
we'll
know. I
see.
just you know, the trunks are back, therefore I claim victory. So
Yeah, although that one so far the suit has become quite divisive. Although not so much now,
yeah,
but
it's
we'll
ugly. It is. You know, it's bright and colorful, and that's a win. The trunks are back, but you know, we got the trunks, but what did it cost? Turtleneck. Like we, you know, it's we don't need that. Like it's there are bits of it that, and the bagginess of it. I don't know if there's an element to that in terms of post production that you know, we're not aware of. If they're going to
yeah.
find if they're
I'm
going to find
hoping.
a way to make that more form fitting on him, because there was issues there. Um, we'll see, I guess, but I do agree that it's the colors are right, but it's still kind of hideous. So
Yeah, I'm hoping just because these were just taken from someone's cell phone or or camera offset, then
right,
hopefully that's
right,
not how it actually looks. Like I'm hoping that maybe how it looks a bit padded, maybe that's just while
yeah,
it's being fitted, maybe.
right.
But we'll
And the
see
thing
what.
is, you know, like the suit looks like it does, but you know what will make up for whatever the suit hasn't provided visually right now. His acting could, you know, if he's a stellar Superman, you know, that to me will make the difference. If he can come out and he's got that charm, not just as Superman, but you know, he does a good Clark Kent, and the juxtaposition, the difference between the two, and he pulls that off, you know, then it'll be, for me, it'll be, you know, worth the time, worth the rewatch, worth that kind of emotional investment that I've been preaching, you know, the time that I give when watching this stuff, because there's, you know, there is so much of it. You know, I'm just looking for those things that I can kind of, you know, hang my hat on as the bits of these things that are worthy of, uh, I guess, giving my heart, my emotions, my wallet, you know, everything over, giving everything over to it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I yeah, I get that because for me, like I could rewatch any of the DC anime universe back then. Like I mean, just with the shows, whereas between like with Batman, Superman, Beyond, the Justice League, I feel like that was just perfect. They found a way to create a shared universe, and yet that was not even their original intention when they started Batman. It was just his own thing. But
Yeah,
then when they started doing Superman, and then like people liked what they were, and they're like, "Hey, why don't I bring them together?" Okay, and we got World's Finest, which is my favorite crossover, seeing Batman with Superman against Luthor and the Joker. Like that
yeah,
to me, like that's going to be the best crossover ever.
yeah,
Maybe second to Public Enemies.
yeah. Well, you keep finding ways to like continue. Like, we're going to keep this conversation going, but the
Yeah,
world's finest thing. The one complaint I have, about Batman obviously being put on the pedestal, getting his star on the Walk of Fame. Superman's the first. We all know that, and I
yeah,
hate how they've now made him this B-rate character. Like they're claiming they don't know how to write. They can't write Superman to make him relatable to anybody anymore. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. Like of course he's not us. None of these characters are real. Like that's first and foremost. Like Batman isn't relatable to anybody. How many billionaires out there do go out and are a vigilante at night, dress up as a bat? Like that's not you know it's just that there's more human emotion to his story, whereas Superman is this alien from a different planet who is completely impervious to really all forms of pain, except kryptonite, of course. But the thing is, like, there's an emotional battle that he has to go through every time because he realizes that he's capable of doing he could do a lot of harm if he chose to go that way. So it's that this moral code that maybe that is the problem. Like so many people in culture today don't look at morality in the same way that the Superman books of old and how Superman used to be, like those things. That's not perceived the same way anymore. And I hate that now DC is at the point where the only way they can give success to Superman is by finding ways to have him glob on to whatever Batman's doing. Like the world's finest thing, Batman's involved. There's a lot of instances in the comics. My hope is that the Superman movie does do well on its own in hopes of like reinvigorating interest and proving again that Superman is kind of the grandfather of all superheroes for a reason. That's
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
agree.
think
I agree.
anyway.
Oh,
So
sorry.
there you go. No, you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Because I'll admit, at first I was a Batman fan, and I guess through the crossovers with Superman, I began to like more of the character. And I did watch through a lot of Smallville, mostly through the first 5 seasons, because I guess I they found a way for him to be relatable through that show because awkward teen, hard to make friends, keeping secrets. I found that very relatable to me going through high school while I was watching through that show,
Yeah,
and even now, like there's this recent show, My Adventures with Superman. It does a pretty good job of like really showcasing his humanity, starting out as a Superman in his like mid to early 20s.
yeah,
And it's a good fresh take, and I feel like they're utilizing some aspects of that for the new movie, especially with the design, because his symbol may not be exactly Kingdom Come esque, but it has that very blocky kind of design, I guess, similarly anyway. And
right.
it's just interesting seeing him as an intern at the Daily Planet along with Lois and Jimmy, and they're
Yeah,
going through things like, I don't know if you haven't watched that show, but I think I would recommend it. It's a good balance with where you get what Richard Donner was trying to do, but also what Zack Snyder was trying to do. For
yeah,
Snyder mostly with action, with some of the action, some of like the like the power of Superman, I guess modern wise. But as far as for like with the humanity aspects, his relationships with people, that's definitely more Richard Donner like in this show.
Yeah, I watched the first three or so episodes of it. Um, and I didn't. My takeaways were that it was worth continuing. I just haven't. I haven't done so yet, but I don't. You know, I just I didn't have a lot of anticipation. I think going into that show, and I think again that's marketing. I think the Batman stuff was just blasted. Like Cape Crusader coming out was blasted everywhere, and that might have been more Amazon. Maybe having a bigger budget for that. I don't know. I just felt like there was more like, hey, you have to watch this. This is Cape Crusader, and then because it was a Superman project, I just felt like maybe there wasn't as much effort marketing wise to really try to get people like me to sit and watch the entire season, like binge the entire season as quickly as I could. But
Yeah,
um,
no, I got you. But I would say like for season one, there's definitely one episode I think you'll really gonna love.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
do you care about spoilers or not?
Oh no, no, no. Go ahead, spoil away. I love spoilers.
Well, for one episode of the first season, there's going to be a lot. I'll say this: there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs to earlier Superman content, mostly
Oh,
mostly animated wise. I mean, it is the whole multiverse thing, but it's just because through Mixius Spitlick. Just how he mentions, like, I met versions of you before, and they bring in like the Super Friends, Fleischer, and the '90s.
oh, cool. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I like that. It's like Batmite when Batmite does his thing and brings in other versions of Batman.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's done this whole thing where I guess there are video discussions where perhaps Mixie is the same in every movie or show he's appeared in, just because I guess he's out of our dimension, so to speak.
Uh,
Yeah, then also there's like this the League of Lois Lanes. I guess they're like I guess other Loises, and then there's a memorial hall where you get to see like Fleischer and I think other versions of Lois Lane from the comics in this memorial hall, including from the '90s with the short skirt and purple jacket.
oh, okay.
So it was a nice little nod, and I'll say this for season two, they definitely did the creepiest version of Brainiac I have ever seen.
Interesting. Huh. Well, yeah, I like Jack Quaid. He's the voice of Clark and Superman, right?
Yeah,
And I like him in the Boys. So, and he seems to really, from what I've seen, I think he really has a fondness, which is important to me. I feel like whoever they cast, whoever they have voice, Superman needs to really like respect. That's been kind of my issue with Superman and Lois. Is that Tyler Hoechlin didn't like. There are pictures online of him like not really, flipping people off and not really kind of.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, during Supergirl, I feel like I mean that taken quite seriously, but I say with his own show, he definitely took. I think he respect the character more, and I'm glad they gave him a better suit. Like it's no Kingdom Come suit from what Brandon Routh wore, but it's definitely an improvement. It's like a very rebirth style suit. And
Yeah.
if you don't mind spoilers with that one, they did a pretty good job with bringing in Steel.
Oh, okay.
Like with that one, is kind of interesting how he is from a different Earth where he had to face an evil Superman. So I feel like that was kind of a change of pace instead of just the usual fanboy that decides to go in as him. But it's not like a long-standing rivalry. It's I guess it's kind of like a whole BVS thing, but instead with Batman, it's with Steel.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, although they do this, the only thing I think I wouldn't mind if they got rid of is if, I guess, in Steele's reality, he and Lois were a thing and having a kid. I feel like I would have not had that part. Maybe if they were like good friends or brothers or something, or like siblings or something, step siblings maybe. Because then that just makes it weird seeing another that he's seeing another version of his wife that's not really his wife. But you know, it's around 2020, multiverse was the thing to do in movies and TV shows and comic books.
It hasn't stopped since 2024, and it seems like it's just getting started. Really, I feel like everything, Marvel bringing in RDJ to be Doom, like there's going to be a multiversal element to that, and that's a whole different can of worms. So
Yep. Yeah, no, I was not looking forward to what they're doing with that, but we'll see what happens. But
that's all we can do is just see what happens.
yeah, and
Don't
if
take
they,
it personally. Just don't
yep,
take anything personally.
yeah, that's why and I just look everything like I see some of what they're trying to do and see what could have worked, but what didn't. Because
Yeah.
like I could see Alan Richardson being the next Batman. I mean, if not him, I could see him also being Wildcat or something, maybe like a younger Wildcat.
Ah, that would be cool.
Yeah, just because I feel like yeah, he could do well as Batman. I just think he needs to dye his hair or something, maybe like a not full on black, maybe like a darker shade of brown.
Well, it could be such too that maybe it's time for an unknown. Getting somebody in there to be Batman. Because clearly Batman has reached a new level in I think public consciousness, the public psyche. This now he's uh, immortalized on the Walk of Fame. There's just there's growing pressure, I think, to create good Batman content, and maybe not. Maybe the pressure is just to make more of it, whether it's good or not. Just like get it out there, and that's all subjective. But
Hmm.
hope that there's kind of a uh, st- standards and practices that hopefully Batman content will go through before. And I think there is. I mean, the Batgirl movie. Somebody said that regardless of Michael Keaton being in this, which would have been enough, I think, for people to go to see the movie. Somebody said no, like this thing can never ever see the light of day. And you know, imagine how much of a turd that movie had to be for them to say, "Oh, we got Michael Keaton and we paid him a bunch, but we're just going to cancel this and write this off because I mean, imagine how bad that had to have been. I can't. I just can't. I
Yeah,
can't.
I mean, I would have mind seeing it just because I'm curious what they would have done with it. Like
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's. I mean, yeah. I would have. I would have seen that. I mean, even like in this case, the negative publicity is still good publicity. I think people, if you told people that like, oh yeah, this is unmistakably bad and you shouldn't go see it, I think there's so many people who would then go see it, and it's like that reverse psychology of we're not even going to try to convince you this is a good movie. Like this is so bad.
I mean, look at the Flash.
Yeah. Well, again, but that was still promoted as being a good movie, and it really, it wasn't, except for the Keaton stuff in that movie. I loved. I thought it was great.
Yeah, but
You know.
that's what I mean. The negative publicity was mostly because of Ezra Miller at the time.
Yeah, sure, and deservedly so. And he was an awful Flash, but
Yeah,
the Keaton stuff, doing the explaining the time space continuum with strands of spaghetti, and I just like that was amazing to me. I loved that, and he was really like it was serious to like he came back, he was Batman, and he didn't like make a joke of it, like he was, and I really respect that. I appreciate that. I think that's it's just like all these actors coming back 30 odd years later. Harrison Ford, of course, is Indiana Jones. Like it's all they take it seriously, and it shows, and that's important. You know,
I,
um,
I agree.
regardless of the amount of cash that I'm sure is thrown at them for coming back, it's important, I think, to the viewer that these actors, come back and take these characters seriously. So,
I agree, and let's hope for the future with Batman, whether it's with Pattinson or whoever they're going to get for Gunn, that
yeah.
it brings that nostalgia. It could bring that nostalgia feel back, or at least bring a new feeling that's like, okay, I dig it. It's different, but it still works as Batman.
I agree. We'll
Yeah,
see.
because I say for everyone here, everyone has a different preference for Batman. Whether you if you want the more gritty, realistic side through either Bale or Pattinson, or the
Yeah.
or even all the way down to the more colorful side of Adam West. It's
Well, I what I've told people is that, because they ask about Keaton, and I'm like, I like Keaton, but I still think, maybe in my lifetime, and maybe not, who knows, because Batman will go on, you know, well past my existence, that I don't think the real, true, definitive Batman actor, we haven't seen them yet. I believe that. Like and I say that because, like, to me, Christopher Reeve, that's definitively Superman to me. Like everything, how he portrayed both sides of that. There will not be. Henry Cavill was good. The writing failed him. There was a lot of stuff that failed him, and I think if given, a better team around him, he could have really been great. I do.
yeah. I hope they give him a chance to be either Kingdom Come Superman in some Elseworld thing, or maybe even Red Sun.
Right. That's, I believe that. I believe that he loved the character, and I think he wanted things to be different. He just didn't have that kind of persuasion. But with Batman, I feel like we've seen a lot of greatness. We've seen Keaton. People love Keaton because they grew up with Keaton. But I still think that, honestly, there's not been that definitive, like, wow, like any it's just that kind of actor who, despite what version of Batman you like, you know, that actor is able to do it all, and just really own it and just be that definitive version. I don't think we've seen that yet with Batman.
Mm, I say the closest would be Kevin Conroy, because I mean, yes, it's only been voiceover work, but I mean, he's done the character for
Sure.
in different versions, and even though his time on Crisis may not have been the best portrayal, but hey, he still got to be Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne live action.
Yeah. That's true. I agree. I mean, there will never be another Kevin Conroy, and his voice is certainly, um, he is the voice, but in terms of that actor who embodies Batman, puts on the suit, and just has that visage, it allows the audience to be fully immersed in the fact that you could go out, and if you met that person, you could think that that wasn't just them acting on screen. They're really That's really Batman. Like that. There's an amount of conviction that
Yeah, I
you're like,
agree.
and I just don't think that, you know we're getting another version. We're getting the gun version, and maybe that will be. I mean, I sincerely doubt it, but I think, hopefully at some point in the future, there will be, and that person could be an unknown. I think there's a lot of pressure, much like Christopher Reeve came out of nowhere. He was highly trained, and that was his opportunity to go out and make that name for himself. Took the character seriously, and the verisimilitude, like he became Superman, and then the stuff that happened to him beyond that, I think, further enhanced his status. And now you look back on that time he spent, that decade as Superman. It's like, wow, like he really was, you know, he was superhuman. And I think when you look at Batman, like, you see these actors who it was a part they played. They were already kind of known at the time that they got the role, and that helped enhance their career certainly. But maybe the answer is finding somebody who nobody knows yet, somebody who's struggling right now, working through Juilliard or whatever, and I
Yeah.
guess Conroy was kind of that way again. The voice, but he's the voice actor bit of it is different from what I'm suggesting. Finding the actor who can fill the suit and really embody the character on the big screen. But
True. Yeah. The looking
anyway,
at Yeah, but looking at his younger pictures, I feel like if he was given the chance, he probably would have hit out of the park in the Tim Burton movie.
yeah, maybe so, maybe so.
But oh well, still we have a selection of Batman actors, and that's why for my DC December list, it's on purely the suits, not so much on the actors.
Yeah,
But
a
we'll
lot of
see what
suits out there.
that there is, and but who knows? Maybe one day we can find that definitive Batman. But I would say that'd be our time for today. I want to say thank you again, Matt, for being a part of this, and to
Oh, my
thank all
pleasure.
you viewers for watching here.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again sometime. Same bat time, same
Same.
bat channel.
There you go. And let's hope we can see some new Batman contents for the future that they'll really hit out of the park.
Right on. All right. You take care.
You as well.